Since January, ICE has made more than 100,000 arrests, double compared to last year, leading to over 60,000 migrants currently in detention. Nearly 70% of them don't have a criminal conviction. The White House set a quota of 3,000 arrests per day, and ICE's budget is now $170 billion, with plans to double the force to about 20,000. Immigration has become the centerpiece of the Trump administration. In this video, we'll track where migrants are being arrested, where exactly they're locked up, and where they're getting deported to. Wired tracked the data. This is Immigration and Customs Enforcement on the Grid. First, let's level set. From January to June of 2024, under former President Joe Biden, ICE carried out about 49,000 arrests. In that same time frame in 2025, now under President Trump, the number of arrests has surged by about 122%. So where in America is this happening? Texas alone represented about 23.2% of all arrests nationwide. Florida followed with about 11%, California with 7%, Georgia with 4%, and Arizona with 3%. The day he entered office, Trump scrapped Biden's policy that protected schools, hospitals, churches, and courthouses. Since then, ICE can operate in virtually any public space, making everywhere fair game. We've all seen images of ICE agents lurking in the hallways of courthouses waiting to arrest migrants when they step out of their hearings. Oh, God. Oh, God. This type of raid happens frequently here at 26 Federal Plaza in New York City. Asylum claims and deportation hearings are held here, but it's a catch-22 for many. By showing up for your court hearing, you risk arrest, and by skipping it, you risk deportation. Worksite raids are at an all-time high. Individuals accused of entering the country illegally at a Hyundai plant in Abrielle, Georgia, were arrested. Many were from South Korea. It was one of the largest single-site operations in the agency's history. But the fallout from the raid has basically caused a diplomatic crisis with South Korea because most of the people working there were not here illegally. Top industries employing undocumented immigrants include food services, waste management, manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare, transportation, warehousing, and educational services. And at the top of the list, the industry perhaps the hardest hit is construction. At a construction site in Mobile, Alabama, it was reported that fears of a raid caused about half the workforce to stay away, delaying the completion of an 84,000 square foot recreation center. This chilling effect has also largely impacted the agriculture industry. Farmers have said that ICE raids in their areas have driven workers away. In California, where about a third of America's vegetables and 3/4 of its fruits are grown, roughly half of the state's farm workers lack legal status. In Ventura County, an agricultural hub that generates billions of dollars annually, much of the crop is harvested by undocumented immigrant labor. A recent study estimated that a reduction of the agricultural workforce by 20 to 40% would result in an estimated $3 to $7 billion in lost crops and driving produce prices up by anywhere from 5 to 12%.
Once arrested, but before they're locked up in a detainment facility, a migrant is taken to a short-term transfer hub like the Dallas ICE field office. On September 24th, a rooftop gunman opened fire into the Sally Port, killing one detainee and critically injuring 2 others.
ICE held 61,226 people in detention facilities, and ICE is doubling detention capacity, aiming for more than 107,000 detainees across 125 facilities. So where are these detention centers? This map is based on public data and gives us a good overview of all the locations across the United States. The bulk of the expansion is happening in Texas, California, Georgia, and Louisiana. The red points are private facilities. In fact, according to the American Immigration Council, the vast majority of people held in ICE detention are held in facilities either owned or operated by private prison companies such as GEO Group or CoreCivic. And business is booming. ICE recently announced a 15-year contract valued at $1 billion with GEO Group to reopen Delaney Hall in Newark, New Jersey. With a capacity to hold about 1,000 people, it will become the largest ICE processing and detention center on the East Coast. Over in Texas, we see many private facilities. As of August 18th, the state held over 13,000 detainees, the most of any state by far. That's followed by Louisiana, California, Georgia, and Arizona. Here are some of the top ICE facilities with the highest average daily population as of August 4th, 2025. First up, Adams County Detention Center in Natchez, Mississippi. Adams is one of ICE's biggest hubs. It averages about 2,100 detainees daily, the top in the country, and it's owned and operated by CoreCivic. Wynn Correctional Center in Louisiana is located in a Gulf Coast region dubbed Detention Alley, where 14 of the nation's 20 largest immigration detention centers are located. Central Louisiana ICE Processing Center gained national attention for detaining Columbia student Mahmoud Khalil. He spent 104 days in detention, and he was released when a federal judge ruled that his detention was unconstitutional. Over at the Moshannon Valley Processing Center in Pennsylvania, in August, activists urged Clearfield County commissioners to end the county's contract with ICE and the GEO group after a 32-year-old Chinese detainee was found unresponsive in an apparent hanging. And of course, there's the infamous alligator Alcatraz. Built on the site of an abandoned airport in the Florida Everglades, the facility's remote location is indeed surrounded by alligator-infested swamps. Its supporters tout that as a natural deterrent that reduces the need for costly perimeter security. In August, a judge blocked the expansion of alligator Alcatraz, but on September 5th, an appeals court reversed that decision, and as Governor Ron DeSantis put it, the facility is now open for business. Meanwhile, civil rights lawyers are suing, saying that detainees are denied confidential communication with their attorneys, a First Amendment violation. These aren't the only accusations ICE has had over alleged civil rights violations. Remember Guantanamo Bay Naval Base in Cuba? The U.S. military prison that earned a reputation for human rights abuses and allegations of torture in post-9/11 war on terror. As of July 2025, there were a reported 72 immigrant detainees from 26 countries being held there. On August 29th, Human Rights Watch called for a halt to transferring immigrants to the naval base due to reports that detainees were kept isolated in unsanitary conditions. Some detainees even reported attempted suicides. Eloy Federal Contract Facility in Arizona is run by the private company CoreCivic. This is where U.S. Representative Yasemin Ansari was blocked by ICE from oversight visits. Ansari recently held a press conference for a constituent of hers who's being held there and has leukemia and who she says isn't receiving adequate care. Poor medical care seems to be a recurring theme. On August 31st, while in custody at the Central Arizona Correctional Complex, a 32-year-old man from Mexico died. A fundraising campaign created by his family states that he passed away alone, likely from complications related to COVID-19, without receiving the medical attention he deserved. According to freedomformigrants.org, there are currently 144 facilities with active COVID-19 cases, and these are just a few of the many reported violations from around the country. As of August 24th, 2025, nearly 70.3% of the more than 60,000 people in ICE detention had no criminal conviction, and among those with convictions, many were for minor offenses such as traffic violations.
About 11% are on an expedited track for deportation, which means that they can be removed from the country without a hearing before an immigration judge. ICE has deported nearly 200,000 people since Trump returned to office. Add to that almost 150,000 more deportations from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and that puts them on track for the highest level of formal deportations in a decade.
So, how does that compare to other previous presidents? Here we have Trump's combined totals so far, including his first term. And Biden's, Bush's, Clinton's. But what about President Obama? Over the course of his 2 terms, ICE removals totaled around 2.4 million undocumented immigrants. Some sources put that total even higher, reporting over 3 million non-citizens removed during his presidency, more than any other president.
Obama was criticized for speedy deportations without full court hearings, but after lawsuits and political pushback, his administration narrowed enforcement priorities in 2014, focusing removals on criminals, security threats, and recent border crossers. The organization Human Rights First has tracked more than 40,000 deportation flights using public data. Between January 20th and August 31st, 2025, the Trump administration carried out at least 7,454 flights, a big increase versus the same period last year. In August, there were an average of 45 flights a day for a total of 1,393 immigration enforcement flights. Of these, 240 were flights that removed people from the United States, the highest monthly total ever recorded since tracking began in 2020.
From a detention center, deportations are carried out by ICE Air Operations, which stages a total of 12 aircraft at its locations, including in Mesa, Arizona, ICE's headquarters for air operations, San Antonio and Brownsville, Texas, Miami, Florida, and Alexandria, Louisiana, a major hub where the airport actually has a detention center on site. Flights removing detained migrants from the U.S. are usually carried out by private charter companies under government contract. Recently, a budget commercial airline, Abrielle, signed a contract to run deportation flights from Mesa using 3 Boeing 737 aircraft. The deal stirred political, ethical, safety, and labor concerns from flight attendant unions and local officials. So where are people actually being sent? In May of 2025, over half of all deportation flights went to Central America's northern triangle of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras.
Mexico has received more than 39,000 deportees from the U.S., including 6,000 who aren't Mexican citizens. These arrangements are known as third country deportations.
But perhaps the most controversial third country deportations have been to El Salvador, which hosts migrants in its mega prison, CCOT, notorious for its brutal conditions that have been condemned by human rights groups. Trump struck a multi-million-dollar deal with El Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele to send Venezuelan migrants there. Kilmar Abrego Garcia was among those deported to El Salvador. He was mistakenly deported there under allegations of belonging to the notorious MS-13 gang. He was returned in June, but became a symbol of the Trump administration's controversial deportation policy. Now the Trump administration is seeking to deport him under new charges, this time to the African nation of Eswatini. Abrego Garcia has pleaded not guilty. African nations have also been drawn into third country deportations. Rwanda agreed to take in 250 migrants, while in May, the Trump administration attempted to send 8 men to South Sudan, a country in the middle of conflict that the State Department deems unsafe for Americans to travel to. The men were convicted of crimes ranging from murder to robbery, but had finished or were nearing the end of their prison sentences. But the flight to Sudan never made it. A judge ruled that the detainees hadn't been given a fair chance to contest their removals, diverting the flight to Djibouti. Only one of the men was from South Sudan. The others came from Laos, Vietnam, Cuba, Mexico, and Myanmar. US officials said that their home countries had refused to accept them. So this is where we're at right now. But things are changing really quickly. The kind of money and manpower now flowing into ICE and to DHS is already radically changing immigration enforcement in the US. But it's not just immigrant populations that are gonna feel this. We all are. Whether it's the government combining and combing through all of our data in ways that have never happened before, or restrictions on government services to people who might have immigrants in their families, or increased surveillance or the weaponization of the immigration status of public figures. It's going to reshape this country for all of us. And at Wired, we're going to be watching. I'm Vittoria Elliott. Thanks for watching On the Grid.